Welcome to the Billy Ho Forecast Show. Please subscribe and like the video. Remember, the more you share, the bigger we grow. Now, let's go! Hello, Billy Ho here. I'm with the DFS-Chef, Dave, and we're going to talk a little Charles Schwab Classic, Colonial Country Club coming up this week. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing good, another week, another dive in and see how we do. I don't know how you did last week, but Justin Thomas saved my ass. I put a live bet in on him after round one with the DraftKings profit boost, so that definitely helped because fantasy wise, I was looking so good after the first round, and then rounds 2 and 3 just saw my lineups kind of just dwindle down, and then round 4 it picked back up again, but definitely not what I was looking for.
Same here, and I had over half my lineups got all 6 through, but I had so many that made it just on the number at +4. Then the absolute worst thing that could have happened was the weather, the temperature dropped and the wind completely shifted the opposite direction. So all those guys that went out Saturday morning didn't know where the hell the ball was going to go. So you saw Billy Ho shot 10 or 12, Tiger shot 50 over, and it just went all downhill from there. And I barely cashed out a couple of lineups. I had 2 lineups in the PME that both had 6s, and neither one of them sniffed a cash. They were that bad. And I had a lineup that barely cashed that had Will Z, Fitzpatrick, Kuchar, and Xander. All those guys. I think Will Z, I would have moved up quite a bit if Will Z would have pulled out that playoff. But I would rather have my dude right here any day of the week, JT. And if you all don't know, Billy Ho went to the same high school as JT, but graduated a significant amount of years before he did. And I will not disclose how many. But we are going to get off here and share a little screen action. And we're going to take a look at Dave's stat model. And of course, you can get the pricing on the stat model on our ticker tape when we go over that. All right, Dave, the 10K range and up. And just real quick, Bubba Watson is the only withdrawal that I have seen so far, which kind of surprised me. I was really hoping that we would clear some of these names out, like at least JT. I mean, what's he got to prove? But that's going to actually sway some ownership, is having more guys to choose from here. So start us off at the top, Dave, and tell us who you like and who you don't like.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's only Tuesday. We're recording this Tuesday morning, so it is possible we do see some more names possibly withdraw this week. So just keep an eye out and
absolutely
stay up to date on the news, because I was also expecting JT to probably withdraw, and he still can.
Mm-hmm.
This week's course, I think, is, even though it's still a Perry Maxwell design, I think it's a little bit different than what we saw last week, and driving accuracy is going to come a lot more into play at this course, I think, than last week's course. So in the 10K range, I mean, everyone always talks about fade the guy after he just won, and I think that's kind of gone out the window now. I think these guys honestly can handle the pressure. They have no big deal, but as of right now, I'm probably looking at fading both of these guys at the top salary range. And even though this guy didn't do all that well last week, he made the cut, but definitely struggled. But when we talk about accuracy and ball striking, I mean, it fits Colin Morikawa right now. I mean, Morikawa is really accurate off the tee. I know several guys in the industry are talking about him. I think he is primed for a good bounce back spot. And then, of course, I mean, we're basically almost in Spieth's backyard, and I mean, Spieth has been striking the ball exceptionally well right now. he just for some reason can't find the putter. And I mean, we know he's always been a great putter, and I think this is his worst year in his career right now, at least for 2022, and just specifically over like this last like 4 or 5 week stretch. The guy can't find the putter, but yet he won the RBC Heritage, losing 2.5 strokes gained putting. So as of right now, I think those are the two guys in the 10K plus range that I'm focusing on right now.
Okay, I can also agree with that. And I actually focused a lot on Morikawa last week, so I was really disappointed. And I watched him a little bit closer, and he just had a lot of putts in that birdie range, like 10 to 15 foot range that just wouldn't go in. And he did seem to find it Sunday, where he made 3 straight birdies and then another one to close. So he birdied like 4 of his last 6 holes. So maybe he can parlay that into something this week. I agree with you on Spieth also, because the putter thing is an issue, but at least he's coming to Charles Schwab, where I looked him up, and he has absolutely some of the best putting outings he's ever had. He's gained 8 to 10 strokes in almost every event over the last 5 or 6 years. So this could be a good get right spot for that. He's going to be extremely popular. Actually, what I popped up this real quick, which surprises me. Like you said, nobody wants to go back to the previous week's winner. But if JT does stay in, I'm going to be tempted to have a few shares, because he may just say, the hell with it. I want that number 1 spot at the FedEx, and I want that 15 million. You saw Cantlay win it. Why can't I? If you give me a 2-stroke lead, ain't none of these guys going to beat me. So he might just be wanting to go right back out and win this golf tournament. And Scotty missing the cut, I thought might have been a blessing, because he didn't have to play in those 2 awful days, Saturday and Sunday, and he could get his mind right to come back around. And if he's going to be 10% owned, that's going to be very tempting. It's going to be really hard to parse out what to do up here. If 1 or 2 of these guys, if everybody stays in, it's going to be rough going. But you went with Spieth and Morikawa, and I have to agree with the Spieth call and the Morikawa call, but I can't really pick anybody besides that. Like I said, I will go to JT. Absolutely. And Victor Hovland, if he's going to be that popular, I may not actually go with him this week. I know we'll get into the 9Ks, but I am kind of going to be trying to fade more 10K guys than I normally do. So if you just give me a choice, I'll probably stick with 2 of these guys, and one of them's absolutely going to be Spieth. Now, I may pivot off of one of the other guys, but I'm not 100% sure. Now, if you get me in these 9K ranges, this is a model I ran Fantasy National over the last 2 months, and the rankings are right here. I do like Abraham Answer this week, and he is 27th in the model, which, that's not super popping, but that's over his last, 4 events maybe. But number 1 in fairways gained, I like. And then I like over here at the putting, 10 to 15 feet. He's a good bent putter, and he's starting to come around. He's had a rough start, so you're going to see some of these stats are a little skewed. But I thought on a course last week that he absolutely had no business T9. He T9. He gained on approach. He gained off the tee. So I think with his game, he's a good fit. You can't go wrong with Homa. And I've gotten in a little bit of a Twitter debate. We'll get into the 8Ks a little bit later. This is 9K is tiny. What to do with Daniel Berger? I don't know what to do with Sungjae M. We haven't seen him in over a month. He's coming off COVID on lockdown in Korea, so we don't know what was going on with him either. And Tony, he's a little wayward with the fairways, but all the rest of his stats are good. This might be a good week to kind of double up top and maybe even skip this entire 9K range. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, it's definitely a little challenging when you look at it, and a lot of people are, or at least the guys that I've, read the articles on or watched some pods already on, are talking about this as a perfect stars and scrubs week. And I definitely can see that. And the flip side is maybe you go contrarian and play a little bit more balanced to get to be different, So I'm with you. Berger always grades out really well in every model. I mean, the stats are always there, but he didn't look right last week to me. He just, I don't know if it was still battling some of that injury maybe that he was dealing with, maybe the back, I don't know, but he didn't look right to me. So I'm probably going to fade Berger. It could possibly cost you. I mean, he is a past winner here. He won here in 2020.
True.
But to me, his game just didn't look right last week. So I'm leery on that. Finau, again, like you said, wayward off the tee. He is starting to show some positive, form. So for a GPP, I don't mind going Finau. Like you said, coming back from COVID. We haven't seen him in several weeks. He was, looking really well before that. But I just don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with him. Like you said, Answer. I mean, we're in Texas. I mean, I didn't play any of them last week, and I kind of pissed myself off because he was a Oklahoma Sooner boy. So I should have probably gone with some of them. He fits even better for this course. So I can definitely see Answer. The two guys that I'm really looking at are, great ball strikers. I'm really tempted to playing like Sam Burns and Max Homa this week. I mean, we look at, like I said, you're looking at ball strikers. The only setback for Burns is he isn't the most accurate off the tee, where Homa is definitely a lot more accurate off the tee. So yeah. I'm looking at that. I mean, I don't mind Burns. If I was reading this correctly, you do want to be accurate off the tee. You want to definitely be on the fairway. It sets you up a lot better, especially into these small greens. But the rough isn't like penal here. But the only problem is you got a lot of tree line. So right. if you do wind up in the rough, even though it's not penal, because of the trees, you might have to just punch out. So I understand why they're talking about accuracy. So it's something to look at.
Okay, this is what we're looking at here. I wanted to point this out real quick since Dave brought up driving accuracy. You can see how it's down significantly from normal to average. Well, it's also driving distance. So this is club down zone for a lot of these guys. This is not a long course, people, for a par 70. A lot of these par threes are eating up the distance. So what you're looking at is you do have 7 par fours from 400 to 450, but a lot of these you can see there's a 225 par 3, and then the other par 3s are pushing 200. So just wanted to point that out real quick. And Berger, actually, when you mentioned him a minute ago, Dave, I thought, I didn't get to see a lot of him because he was awful, but he lost over 7 strokes putting in 2 rounds of golf. That's going to trunk slam you all day. So I don't know if it was, everything to do with him just being rusty or a bad back on his tee to green game, but he was atrocious putting. So we'll jump into the 8K range, and I'll let you kick us off there, Dave, and give us some 8K guys you're interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really like this range. Again, when I was talking about Burns and Homa, and I was talking about kind of being a big question mark for Berger, it kind of drops me down to Gooch. Taylor Gooch is looking actually really good to me. Again, talking accuracy off the tee, he's not the most accurate off the tee. Over his last 24 rounds, he's a little bit negative with his accuracy, but I can deal with that. He's positive in almost every stroke gain metric over the last 24 rounds, except for strokes gained off the tee. But again, we're mentioning, of course, that most of these guys are clubbing down. So maybe clubbing down is going to increase his accuracy. Fleetwood's getting a lot of talk. I mean, he kind of backdoored his way into a top 5 finish last week. But here we go again. Here's where we mention Tommy Fleetwood. I'm always kind of leery about Tommy Fleetwood, especially when he gets to be like 8,500 plus. Does he return value? You know, it's something you got to look at. Like, I mean, he was part of my core last week in my core cascade because it was a major and he was $7,600. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I always love that when we talk pricing. When we look at short courses, 7,200 yards and less, Webb Simpson always pops. I mean, if you look at my stat model, that bets and player pool tab, strokes gained total par 70, 7,200 or less since 2019. Webb is number one, and with a significant number of rounds, obviously, since 2019. We're going back. He's got 56 rounds, but he is number one. And a lot of that is because of Wyndham, which, I mean, that's his jam right there.
Oh, is that down here?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, there it is. Gotcha.
Yeah. So, I mean, you see that. And I mean, Wyndham fits that model, and Wyndham is his jam. I mean, he named his daughter after the damn tournament. So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, Webb is definitely someone interesting. He looks like he's starting to get healthy. And he could be a nice pivot off of Mito, because I have a feeling a lot of people are going to go back to Mito this week. So it's one of those kind of question marks. Like I said, there's a lot of people. Davis Riley, a guy that, you know, really looked good last week. I mean, he's found something, especially since he teamed up with Zalatoris at the Zurich. You look at his finishes since then, 4th, 5th, 9th, 13th. The guy's found something. So Riley's definitely someone that's intriguing to me. Bryson De Chambeau at 8,300. You're never going to see Bryson this cheap, but he's going to try some practice rounds. I don't think he's going to go again. I think he's probably going to pull out. Then we got the defending champion, Jason Kochrack. You know, Kochrack is someone that you got to look at. Kevin Nas won here. So that $8,000 range is really interesting to me right now. But if I was to pick, say, two guys that I'm absolutely looking at maybe locking in, I think Horschel bounces back this week. You know, his price went up. His price went up $1,100, but this course fits him better than last week's course. So I understand the price bump. Obviously, the field is not as strong as last week, so obviously his price is going to go up. So if I'm picking two guys, I'm probably going Horschel, and like I said, I really like Gooch.
Sounds good, man. I think I might be warming up to Gooch myself, and getting into what we talked about with Tommy. I put out a Twitter post comparing Tommy Fleetwood to Jason Kochrack on the price, and I got a little bit of pushback on it, but some agreement, some not. Jason Kochrack's won 3 times in 2 years. Tommy Fleetwood has yet to sniff victory on the PGA Tour. So I was just kind of pointing that out as just not really in jest, but just to say, hey, this guy's 8,200. He just won the damn tournament last year. And Tommy, maybe, yeah, he's coming in with better form, but it's not like Kochrack didn't T14 at the Masters. So it's not like he's been terrible, but it's going to be really hard. I guess I got to go back on Webb. I didn't play him last week, and the son of a bitch comes out and plays well on a course that I wouldn't think he'd play well on, the way he's been playing. Now he can play well on any course when he's Webb, but he's been really struggling lately. And I think Billy will bounce back. Kochrack's definitely on the radar, but my man Kevin Na, if he don't withdraw, he's a sneaky withdrawal guy. Sometimes he wakes up with a bad back and he's out. And he played exceptionally well at the PGA tournament for a course he probably shouldn't have played well on. He loves the bent grass. Of course, he's a past winner here too. Yep. He's absolutely going to make him say, this week if he plays. So do like him. Whipping into the 7,000 range here real quick. I mean, Kirk was one of my better calls last week. I thought he'd play well, and he actually had a little putter action. That's usually his downfall. He's a ball striking and around the green. Everything tee to green on him is really good. he just, if he can just kill you with the putter. And that's where you saw these missed cuts at Valspar and Zurich, that team event. That's nothing, but that top 5 at the PGA Championship is impressive for him. So he's getting there. These 3 guys right here, HV3 and Harmon, all on my radar, but they're all going to be popular. So it's kind of tough to get into, but Harmon, this is his jam right here. I mean, you can see the course history going across the board. He's just tee to green. He's hitting his driver about as good as he has been in the last couple of years, and he's good with the irons, and he gets hot with the putter. I mean, that's if that ain't Kenny Kim cash game cornerstone right there, player number 3, I'll be surprised. And one last guy I wanted to mention was old CT Pan, who everybody was, well, not on, but everybody threw a bitch fit when he withdrew after his lock. But he had a family emergency, so there was no injury problem there. And he's a good course fit because he's an accuracy guy. And he's had a missed cut, but he's also had a top 5 and pretty solid 3 out of 4 years. So go ahead, Dave. Let's see what you got in the 7,000 range.
I'm with you on almost every one of those names that you mentioned. Going back to Fleetwood real quick, in case you didn't hear it, I know Kenny Kim already tweeted it out this week because Kenny mentioned him and that he really liked him. As a matter of fact, I think Kenny said, I was watching his pod last night on Fantasy Golf Degenerates. I think he mentioned that Fleetwood was one of his favorite plays on the board this week. But as of this morning, Tommy Fleetwood has been cursed. So keep that in mind when you click on Tommy Fleetwood's name. He has been cursed. But yeah, the 7K range, like I said, all those guys that you just mentioned, I really like. I was wrong on Chris Kirk last week. When we did the show last week, Chris Kirk has always been someone I always enjoyed clicking. He's helped make me a good amount of money, but I was just on the fence with him last week and I didn't click on him, and damn it, I wish I would. That's what one of the guys I always click on. He got me. He put his foot in my ass because I didn't play him last week. So I definitely like Chris Kirk. Brian Harmon, like you said, accuracy. As a matter of fact, I don't think Brian Harmon has ever missed a cut at this tournament. I think he's like 11 for 11 or something like that. HV3, definitely someone I'm looking at. Sebastian Munoz is a guy I'm looking at. He does well. He does really well in Texas. So Munoz is someone I'm looking at. And as a matter of fact, I do believe Munoz and Harmon are 2 of Kenny Kim's cash game cornerstones this week. Yeah, they are. Munoz and Harmon are both Kenny's cash game cornerstones this week in that 7K range. Other guys that I'm looking at in the 7K range, I would say Justin Rose actually has someone that does really well here. Definitely not cash, but I might have a little bit of Rose in GPPs. Looking at that tab again, the guy that pops up a lot in that tab in the 7K range, Tringale is popping up in that tab a lot, as is this guy's being mentioned quite a bit. Troy Merritt and Cameron Tringale are 2 names that pop up a lot in a lot of those extra little categories on my bets and player pool tab. So those are 2 names that I'm really going to probably look at this week, but it just depends on how much ownership they're going to be gaining.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to take a look at. I knew Tringale was low. He's hovering around 5%. I kind of like him too. Mav, actually, I thought he'd be a lot more owned than that. Everybody loves Mav McNeely. And
he does well here too.
Yeah. And Merritt's never going to get a lot of ownership. I think it's just like us in the DFS industry. They kind of point him out. But he's not a real, unless he run off like 4 straight top 10s or something, then people will start noticing him more. But just to clean up the 7K range, I wanted to mention a couple of guys down here. Aaron Rye, who'd been playing really well. This course absolutely seems like a fit to him because he's Mr. Accuracy off the tee, and he's a good ball striker. He struggles a bit around the green, but around the green is kind of null at this tournament. The smaller greens they're pretty easy to chip on. Joel Damon's another accuracy guy, and these guys are all coming in at low ownership. And former winner JJ Spawn, all three of these guys are going to be in my pool. So I just wanted to bring them up for all pretty much the same reasons.
Yeah, I know Kenny mentioned Spawn last night on the show, so that it's not going to bump him significantly, but he'll get some ownership. Spawn definitely
a little bit, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
I actually also kind of like Lucas Herbert. He's definitely someone that I'm keeping on the radar. He's one of the best putters on bent grass. Well, he actually is like the number one putter on bent grass, but he only has 10 rounds on bent grass. And when I put up my bent grass putters on that bets and player pool tab.
Yeah, that's what I want.
I did it since the start of 2021, and I put minimum 12 rounds.
That's up here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right here.
So that's why I didn't have him on there. I mean, I put him down on the bottom with
he didn't have enough. Okay.
Yeah, with the little asterisk, he only has 10 rounds. But I mean, if you did that, he's number one. If you did 10 rounds, obviously you see the guys who are on top, and obviously Kochrack's one of the best on bent. But
okay,
it seems he's kind of lost his putter recently. But yeah, Lucas Herbert is someone I'm keeping an eye on, and then also Stewie Sink.
Here we go. This guy right here, Steven Yeager, was one of the first guys I noticed. And of course, he ain't going to be out on eye-popping stats or anything, but he's come a long way in a short time over the last several weeks. And he actually, one thing he's really, really good at is putting. And he actually came through for me and played pretty well at the Byron Nelson tee to green on a much more, because he's 99 in distance. He's not long off the tee, and long off the tee was what you wanted to be at Byron Nelson. But he lost 3 strokes putting at Byron Nelson. I think he still had like a inside the top 30. So that was my first thought. And Adam Long is a guy, he's always hitting fairways, and he can get hot with the putter. He's pretty middling in the stats, but he's a great cut maker. And I think he actually is gaining a little steam this week. Brandon Wu is going to pop in everybody's recent form models because of that second place finish a few back. But I like this guy down here, Kurt Kitayama, to bounce back because he let me down. His only problem that scares me is fairways gain. He is wild with the driver, but if he can club down on these shorter holes and play them safe, you can see everything else. He ranks in the top 10 in almost every statistical category. And that's over the last 5 events. And one last guy, and I'll kick it over to you. Adam Schenk at Dead Stone Men 6K was about this time last year, lock button for 6,800 guy to make the cut. Now, he's not been playing all that great this year, but he's 37th in distance, which is a plus. Now, 86th in fairways gained, not great, but good drives is 39th. That's all right. Everything else, he's hitting some greens, 45th, and the stats aren't stellar over his last 32 rounds. But for Stone Men, I'm going to throw some softballs at that. What do you think, Dave?
Yep. A lot of those same guys that you just mentioned are in my player pool as well. Adam Schenk, I was going to bring up, if you didn't, stone cold minimum 6K, especially if guys are talking stars and scrubs this week. 6K is too cheap for Adam Schenk.
Way too cheap.
Way too cheap. A couple other guys that, Yeager's on my list. Adam Long, again, on that bets and player pool tab. A lot of that stuff, Adam Long is on a lot of those things. Strokes gained total over the last 24 rounds, he pops in on. Weighted strokes gained total over the last 24 rounds, he pops in on. Best course fit over the last 24 rounds, he pops in on.
Yeah.
He's popping up on a lot of that extra stuff I put on there. So that's someone I'm definitely going to, keep an eye on. Patton Kazire is always someone that, makes a lot of birdies, but he also makes a lot of bogeys. But traditionally, he outperforms his finishing position when we talk fantasy points. So Kazire is someone I'm looking at, and then a couple other guys that you didn't mention that I have on my player pool list. The glove, Lucas Glover seems to do well in Texas. 6,700 seems a little cheap for him. Rory Sabatini, another guy that is popping on a few of those things. So I'll look at Sabatini. And then when we talk ball striking, this guy's a great ball striker. He just has some issues with the putter. But Austin Smotherman, and I know Tyler Tamboline, that's one of Tyler's boys, and I know he mentioned him on the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast last night. But he fits the bill, Like I said, great ball striker. He needs to find that putter, and if he does, his price is cheap. I think he's coming at 6,500.
So 63, yeah.
63. Yeah, 63. That's too cheap for Smotherman. So, that's why I understand why guys are talking about stars and scrubs this week. You got a few guys in that 6K range that are definitely underpriced, and you can click on their names, and all you need them to do is make the cut. And then you got two guys in that 10K plus range. No problem.
Absolutely, man. I think we covered quite a bit in this show today. I think we've been clicking pretty good, brother. And of course, if you just keep an eye on the ticker going across the top, I'm throwing out all kinds of information. So how to get Dave's stat model, where to follow us on Twitter. We certainly do appreciate you. I'm pushing 100 subs. It's been really a great run here over the last 3 or 4 weeks, month and a half. My man Dave here has been retweeting everything. Shout out Stewie. Stewie on Twitter retweets. He must have it auto set to automatically retweet. He's doing it every time. So good on you. Jeff Anzo, our man, the betting bartender, aka DFS Tavern. All those dudes out there. Guru, Nick, and all our dudes in the Discord. Shout out. And until the next video, peace.